G'day YouTube people. I thought it'd be useful to give the town of Cottesloe some feedback on how the Eric Street shared path is going so far. And this is after riding it half a dozen times since it opened. Now we start at Curtin Avenue, and my biggest gripe at this point is, well, although there's a push button, it's actually quite hard to see the shared path on the other side there. So I reckon some green paint here would probably help a hell of a lot in terms of wayfinding to let newbies like myself know the path is here. So here's the plan, just slap a bit of green paint down across the road there. The other issue at Curtin Avenue, yes, whilst I said there's push buttons, there's no bike pedestrian lanterns in either direction. So looking at it from this direction, see the lantern on the left, you can't actually see the colours of the lights. You've got to look at the lantern out there in the middle of the road. And I found that a little bit tricky when exiting the shared path for the first time, that I didn't know when it was safe to cross the road. So I would put bike slash pedestrian lanterns here, pretty much where that give way sign is. And in fact, I'd beef up that island a bit to make it a bit bigger so you could actually park some bikes there. Chamberlain Street shrubbery cleanup. What I mean by this, there's a lot of weeping willow type trees around here, and they're obstructing sight lines along Chamberlain Street. So drivers can't see cyclists approaching from either direction, and cyclists obviously have difficulty seeing cars. So out there with a chainsaw, just clean this stuff up and keep it cleaned up, and that'll be good. But another issue is the closeness of parked cars to the ramp at Chamberlain Street. Now on the thing here it says that the no parking was going to be within 10 metres of the hold line on Chamberlain Street. Relocate existing parking signs to suit. What I would do is make the no parking 10 metres from the edge of the ramp. Now that's probably going to be as well extremely unpopular with local residents, but you know, they did want this, they did complain this was an unsafe design to begin with, so I don't think they can complain about making this even safer than it is today. So yeah, cars kind of play peekaboo coming out of that side street behind that parked car, and thankfully it's a small car, but if there was a van or four-wheel drive there, you'd have no hope of you know, seeing vehicles approaching. Now, vehicles obstructing the shared path. Now this one wasn't too bad, it was only taking up half the path, it was easy to go around it, although I'm glad it was, you know, broad daylight and I can see the tow ball there, and I think this bloke was cleaning his boat, so he was very nice not to obstruct the footpath, which was great, but his car ended up, you know, hanging out halfway out of the path. Now this driver was just sitting there, this was Saturday the 23rd of April, and when I turned up, she was on the phone, and I don't know whether she'd broken down or not, but if, you know, I'd broken down, it would have popped the lid. But imagine, you know, you've got a kid on a tricycle, or, you know, you're an old person in a gopher or wheelchair, and you're using the shared path, or even a cargo bike, and you want to get around a vehicle like this. Now, you can't, because you're just going to get bogged in that sand off to the left, and of course there's no room off to the right here. I got that wrong. No, yeah, okay, the other way around. But obviously that gopher would have a lot of trouble getting around that vehicle. The other thing I've noticed is just drivers doing silly things down near the OBH. Like, instead of driving straight ahead in this one-way street and exiting at Marine Parade, this particular driver didn't want to do that, and so, you know, reversed into the bike lane. Yes, there was a question in the post about you know, how long it'll take before a cyclist is you know, clipped. Well, I think that depends on, you know, how much stupid driver behaviour we experience. Now, I could have gone around that car, for instance, on the left-hand side, but I didn't want to in case someone opened the door. Anyway, in summary, make it easier to find the shared path from Curtin Avenue. Bit of green paint, signage, bike logos, that kind of thing. Put up some bike pedestrian lanterns at the Curtin Avenue traffic lights to make it easier to get across the road. Clean up all the trees to improve visibility at Chamberlain Street, and you know, think about moving that no parking zone further, so you don't have cars just popping out from behind you know, vehicles that are parked close to the ramp. Make it clear to drivers that the shared path is not for car parking, and that's, you know, anywhere along the shared path. Now, I did notice that there are some CCTV camera poles at either end of the path down near the OBH. I don't know if they're being used for monitoring the path and what's going on, but I guess it'd be interesting, if council officers have a look to see what's going on. Anyway, the good stuff about the path. The width is good. The surface is good. And yeah, I've been on some paths around the place which have been very badly laid. This one's good. The ramps are good. They're a good slope. The ramp road interface is good. You don't go ba-boom, ba-boom when you're transitioning between road and ramp. Sightlines are generally good, apart from Chamberlain Street. The curves flow fairly well. There's no surprises. There's no poles in the middle of the path or anything stupid like that. And although the residents might not like the look of the monkey cage, it is safe, and so that's the most important thing. Now, what don't we know? Well, I haven't ridden it at night, so I've got no idea what the lighting's like. It hasn't rained, so we don't know what the drainage is like. Haven't ridden it often enough to interact with a lot of drivers at intersections like, Chamberlain Street, for instance. Also, haven't ridden it enough to see what driver behaviour is like going in and out of driveways, whether some silly things are happening there. And of course, because it's the school holidays, we don't know how school kids are going to use this going to and from school. That kind of stuff is still to come. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on those good points and bad points, and providing some feedback to the town of Cottesloe to see if we can get some improvements on this. Well, improvements on what is actually a pretty good path so far.